So, stand-up comedian Matt Rife has landed himself in some hot water recently, stemming from his new Netflix special known as Natural Selection. Now, why exactly are people getting mad at a comedian? I thought their job was to make people laugh, not angry. Well, the thing is that in order to make people laugh, you had to be a good comedian. And unfortunately, Matt Rife kind of struggles at being a good comedian. Now, if you don't know who Matt Rife is, Matt Rife, like I said before, is a stand-up comedian who rose in fame through TikTok when he started posting clips of his stand-up routine a couple years ago, mostly due to his looks. He currently has, I believe, like 18 million followers on TikTok and has like 300 million likes, like over 300 million likes on his TikTok page. Like, he blew up big time. And the thing is that he has been doing stand-up for a long time, but he hasn't really been finding much success in it. He's been doing it ever since he was a teenager, and ever since then, he's kind of been trying to make it in the entertainment industry, with his biggest break up until this point being on Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out show, where he was like really awkward to Zendaya and was being very creepy, despite the fact that she was underage at the time. It's just really weird. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the new controversy that Matt Rife is in which he decided to open up his Netflix comedy special with a DV joke. And before we really get into this, first of all, trigger warning for DV. But secondly, I will be getting into this later. But I just want to say, I do believe you can make a joke out of anything. It just depends on how well you can write that joke. And if you're going to write a joke about DV, you better be able to tell one hell of a DV joke that everyone can laugh at. But Matt Rife decided not to go with that route. Instead, he used one of the cheapest jokes in the fucking book.
I've only been to Baltimore one time. I ate lunch there, and the hostess who like seats you at the restaurant had a black eye. A full black eye. And it wasn't like, what happened? Yeah, it was pretty obvious what happened. And we couldn't get over the fact that we were like, this is the face of the company? Like, this is who you have greeting people? And my boy who I was with was like, yeah, I feel bad for her, man. I feel like they should put her in the kitchen or something where nobody has to see her face, you know? And I was like, yeah, but I feel like if she could cook, she wouldn't have that black eye. So, testing the water, seeing if y'all are gonna be fun or not. Just wanted to see. I figured we start the show with domestic violence. The rest of the show should be pretty smooth sailing.
Now, some of you might just be saying, oh, well, you just don't get dark humor. You're just a snowflake, and you don't get dark humor. You're just not a funny person, yada yada yada. First of all, this isn't dark humor. This is hacky. This is not dark humor. This is a joke that's been told for decades now. If your sense of dark humor is coming all the way from the 50s, you might want to update your dark humor a bit. The only person I could really see getting a big hard laugh at this joke is some, like, I don't know, obsessively online Redditor. First of all, it's a bad joke just in general, but it's also just a hacky one. Like, it's not original, it's not creative at all. And again, what's really the punchline here? That a woman got punched because she wasn't good at cooking? Like, the thing about a punchline is that it's supposed to be funny, regardless of the topic, and the punchline just isn't. The punchline is that this woman got punched in the eye. Like, it's just not a good joke. And the thing is that he wants to use this joke as a way to test his audience at the start of the show to see if they're fun or not. Here's a tip. If you want to see if your audience is fun or not, tell a good joke. And if they laugh, they're a good audience. If they don't, they're a bad audience. You know how you don't test your audience? By telling one of the most unoriginal jokes of all time. And we'll get back into this later, but he has tried to respond to this joke in a lot of different ways, but one of the funniest ways that I have seen him do so is by saying that he has taken this new joke in a modern approach. Like, what's modern about this joke? It, again, has been used for decades and decades and decades. What's the modernization of this joke? But again, we'll kind of get into Matt Rife's whole response to this drama later on, but right now I kind of want to get more into perhaps the reasoning of this joke. Now, some of you may be saying that Matt Rife had no intention to tell this joke beyond it just being a dark humor joke. But the thing is that Matt Rife kind of blew up on TikTok due to his female audience. Now, Matt Rife, I would say, is pretty conventionally attractive. In my opinion, Matt Rife almost seems like a over exaggeration of what people think is kind of like, conventionally attractive. Like, he looks like he was trying to be too pretty. I don't know. People have been comparing him to like a Big Mouth character, and like I kind of get it. I mean, just look at the comparison. It's fairly obvious that Matt kind of got his success through his looks, and it has been kind of helping him out through comedy, which he denies, but we'll get back into that. But really, he started to blow up due to him having a pretty big female audience. And it also doesn't help that a lot of his crowd work that went viral on TikTok had a lot to do with his female audience. So it's not like females being a large part of his fan base is something that just came out of the blue. It's something that he also kind of played a role into because he knew that what was helping his success. Like those clips were put out by him, or at least his team. They are aware that a large amount of his fan base does consist of women, and that's kind of how he saw his rise to fame. And like I mentioned before, he also believes that his looks actually are like a detriment to his career. I'll play this clip right here, but it's just really funny.
I will say I don't think it helps you by any means. I mean, people don't want to laugh at like physically attractive people. Like you don't want to walk on stage and have people looking at your arms rather than listening to your jokes.
I think it just makes me work that much harder on the material and the jokes that I'm trying to tell people to focus on the real show at hand.
I don't understand what he's trying to say here, as if being conventionally attractive hasn't helped a lot of people's careers, despite the fact that there are multiple people who are very conventionally attractive who don't really have a lot of talent. Like, do you really think if The Rock didn't look like The Rock, he would get as many movie roles as he did? Like, obviously, a reason that plays into a lot of high paying actors and, very top tier actors being put into these roles is because they're very conventionally attractive. People like seeing their faces on the screen, despite the fact that some of them just aren't that great at acting. I mean, let's be honest, that's probably the only reason Mark Wahlberg has a career at all. But, like, it's just so funny. Like, do you honestly think people are just gonna be like, oh, look at this hot guy on the stage? I'm not gonna laugh. He's just too hot. It also just, kind of shows the ego he has. But at the same time, he kind of blew up at a very, like, short amount of time. Like, it was a very radical change in what he was doing beforehand, because he was doing stand-up for many, many years before then, like ever since he was a teenager. But his fame was never kind of a steady increase. It was just kind of, he was getting by, and then he just blew up. And when it comes to people kind of like blowing up out of nowhere and getting a large fan base, ego kind of comes with it. And this is shown in many cases. It's why kind of like, you'll see it in like a lot of cases with like TikTokers and like even Vine stars back in the days, and even YouTubers. And also just other professions like musicians, actors, shit like that. People let egos go to the head very quickly when, they're from like the bottom of the barrel to, one of the most well-known people of a certain type of entertainment. But getting back to the whole, controversy itself with the DV joke, a reason why this is more than likely intentional is because Matt doesn't like that he has a large female audience, seemingly. And this is only really proven when we go more into his comedy special, in which he like makes fun of girls who like astrology and like really goes into it, saying that he would even, unalive a girl if she brought up how Mercury was affecting her life.
If I hear one more person blame how their life is going on Mercury, I will kill you myself. Do you understand? You leave that goddamn planet alone.
And like obviously, again, it's a joke, but again, it's just not a real funny one, and it again is targeting women, because I feel like this should be pretty well known, but a large amount of people who are victims of DV are women, and it's done so by their male partners. So a guy making a very hacky, very bad DV joke against women is not good, I don't think that needs to be said. And again, attacking women later on in your comedy special by saying how, women who believe in astrology are dumb, despite the fact that there are men who believe in astrology, and it's not like even a small amount either. Again, it's not gonna make you look good. It's not gonna make you look good at all. And there was also a Variety article that came out before the special in which Matt basically talks about how this special is meant to be more appealing to a male audience. But he also mentions later on that he wants the special to be for everyone. And while he does sometimes take shots at men during the special, it still is pretty indiscriminately, focused on attacking women. And so I don't know how it's really supposed to be for everyone, especially when you mentioned earlier on that you want it to be kind of more for guys than for women. Like, it's very obvious, especially with the comment about, like, how he doesn't think his appearance helps him with comedy. It just feels like he doesn't really like the fact that he has a large female audience. Because, I don't know, maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe he wants to be more for, like, he kind of wants to be more for, like, the boys, kind of. Like he wants to be for the dude bros, like the frat bros. That's the kind of comedy that he kind of runs in. I don't know. Like, it just seems painfully obvious that he just doesn't want to have as large of a female audience as he currently does. Like, instead of trying to kind of push away the audience that made me famous in the first place, you feel like you would almost try to embrace it in some regard. Like, you would probably want to at least, like, I don't know, change your content at least in a way to pander to the audience that got you where you are. Because he wouldn't have had this Netflix special if it wasn't for his large female audience getting him to this place. And if the reasoning behind this joke isn't bad enough, there's also his response to the joke. Now, again, a lot of people responded very negatively to this, and there were people who were supporting him, but, like, it's the same people who, like, support every hacky comedian, and, like, they always use the same excuse. Oh, it's just dark humor. You can't take a joke, snowflake. All the stuff that I said before. It's just the same shit over and over again. But a lot of people got mad at this, and a lot of people are criticizing him for good reason. But a few days later, after this whole controversy really came to light, Matt decided to respond through a Instagram story in which he says that for anyone who is offended by my jokes, click the link below to get my apology. But that wasn't the case. What really happened is that the link would send people to a store where people could buy special need helmets, which is very ableist, which I don't think needs to be said, but is incredibly ableist. Okay, so beforehand we had the punchline of a woman getting punched in the face because she couldn't cook. And now we have the punchline of, you don't like my jokes, so you're mentally disabled. And it's just, gross. I think gross is the right word to use for that. And if that couldn't be bad enough, there's also this clip from Tana Mojo's podcast where he basically says that the only reason that people are mad at him is because they're jealous of him.
Here's a very humbling experience that I've had recently, because so many fucking people hate me for really no reason, and it really made me realize that, like, people only hate somebody they're jealous of. And I've been guilty of hating people, and when I really sat back and thought about it, it was because I was jealous of where that person was in their life. I felt like maybe they got an opportunity that I should have gotten.
That was a really, really good, well-rounded answer. I'm trying to wrap my head around. Do you think people who hate Osama bin Laden are jealous of him?
And that's the only reason they could ever be mad at him. And Tana, surprisingly, is actually the person who has, like, the good response to this. Like, yeah, people can be mad at you for more than one reason. It would be like if I said that the reason why people don't like pineapple on pizza is because they have bad taste buds, or their parents didn't love them enough, or they just suck. Like, there's multiple reasons why people can have bad taste. Just like there's multiple reasons why people can believe your joke is just not good. Like, again, it just kind of feels like he just has grown such a big ego from his quick rise to fame that he just can't see out of his own ass and just see why people wouldn't find it funny. But I don't think we should really be surprised why Matt Rife couldn't understand why people wouldn't find this funny or why people would get mad at this joke when apparently his two biggest inspirations for stand-up comedy are Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais, I believe. Which, if that's the case, I would hate to know his stance on trans people. Yeah, these are the two guys who have inspired this man so much. So it's no wonder why he's such a hack. Talk about like a fucking downgrade. Talk about a downfall from. And here's the thing, even like his Netflix comedy specials that came out, there were some good jokes in that. But similar to Matt Rife, he couldn't get his head out of his own ass. He couldn't just let his ego go and be like, maybe I'm wrong about this. So it's no wonder why Matt Rife is kind of following in his footsteps. But there is also kind of more to this when it comes to the aftermath of the controversy. I mean, it's still kind of going on. But there is some like other funny stuff I do want to talk about. Because apparently Matt Rife is kind of beefing with his alleged plastic surgeon. So there's this plastic surgeon on TikTok, Many Faces of Chicago, who posted this after the Matt Rife controversy. But it is alleged that this might be the guy who, did some plastic surgery on Matt Rife because he never talks about him. So it's all alleged. Which, we kind of talked about earlier that Matt Rife kind of, I don't know if pride is the right answer, but he definitely feels like his physical appearance plays a detriment to his comedy career. And again, this guy does not mention Matt Rife at all throughout this entire TikTok. But Matt Rife felt like he needed to respond to this, saying lying about medical history is illegal, just FYI. He doesn't mention him, so this is just kind of, it's just Matt telling on himself. Because there are pictures of Matt when he was younger, and you can kind of tell, unless he was doing, like, I don't know, Olympian fucking jaw exercises, you can kind of tell that jaw might not be natural. Which, if it's not, it's okay. Like, I just feel like it's kind of ironic how this guy, who feels like anyone who gets upset at his jokes is a snowflake and just doesn't understand comedy, yet this guy makes a funny TikTok where he alludes to the fact that Matt Rife probably got plastic surgery to get a, well-defined jawline, and he's pretty butthurt about it. I don't know, I just thought that was pretty funny. And if you feel like his response couldn't get any worse, just know he went on Jordan B. Peterson's podcast. I'm not joking. He is literally on Jordan B. Peterson's podcast.
It's a modern twist on an old joke, you know what I mean? It was a real circumstance that happened, an exaggeration.
Yep, there he is on the Jordan B. Peterson podcast with the Jordan B. Peterson, and he thought this would make him look good. Like, I don't understand the play here. I guess, like, if you're already getting shit on by so many people, you might as well go for the bottom of the barrel. But it's not like this is, like, the end of his career, but, like, I'm sorry, but if you're going on Jordan B. Peterson's podcast, you're basically saying that you're trying to end your career. It's like, if you want to be a hack comedian, there are so many more, like, you could go on Joe Rogan's podcast, come on. At least you could get some eyes on it. Just, like, nobody cares about Jordan B. Peterson anymore. Like, everyone's just kind of, like, written him off as a joke. Like, what's the point of this? I don't know, maybe, like, all of his friends have kind of, like, brushed him off because of this. Like, they don't want him on their podcast anymore because they don't want the controversy to come with it. But, like, I guarantee you, there's other people other than Jordan B. Peterson that would allow a hack like you on their podcast. But like I said before, I mean, his inspirations are Chappelle and Gervais, I don't care. But his inspirations are hacks who kind of have just given up on their careers. And that's what they are. They are hacks. It's not dark comedy. Like, people like this and, like, their fans try to use dark comedy as a blanket term to describe anything that's offensive or just kind of, like, hacky and lazy. But really, like, that's not really what dark comedy is, because dark comedy has to be funny, and it has to be kind of creative. That's what art and comedy is. Like, you can tell dark comedy. There are comedians out there who are really good at telling dark comedy and are successful from it, but they don't really get that much backlash when they do so because people are aware that they're actual good comedians. Like, Anthony Jeselnik has made an entire career out of being a dark comedian. And there is a clip of him kind of describing this. It wasn't in response to this, it was just kind of like, him just talking about dark comedy in a way. And it was on like Theo Vaughn's podcast. I'll share a clip right now.
And all these comics now, it's like almost the point is to get in trouble. It's like, why are you giving me shit? I'm a comic. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. That's wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Art.
Oh wait, say it again, so I don't miss it.
People think like, oh, as a comic, your job is to get in trouble, and so, but they don't want to get yelled at. It's like it's okay to make people mad, but they don't want any pushback, and I think that's wrong. As a comedian, you want to make people laugh. This is a quote attributed to Andy Warhol that I love. It's just, art is getting away with it. If you put out a special and everyone's pissed, like, you didn't get away with it. You need to make everyone laugh that they're like, yeah, he talked about some fucked up stuff, but we're all happy. That's art. Otherwise, you're just a troll.
And this to me is just like a perfect explanation of what dark comedy truly is and can be when you do it right. And another comedian who is really good at dark comedy, Daniel Sloss. I just got done watching a comedy special of his a few days ago that I found out was on Max, which was really good. And it was filled with dark comedy, but it didn't feel hacky and it didn't feel lazy. He's not a comedy legend for telling this joke. He's just telling a joke that many people have used time and time again. It's not creative, it's not original, it's not funny. It's just hacky. And again, it just feels like his ego is kind of getting in the way of his success because he just refuses to have a large female fan base, and it is blinding him from the fact that he is more than likely going to ruin his career, especially with the way that he is going now. And it really just sucks seeing this man be so ego-driven that he basically just wants to end his whole career because he doesn't like women being a part of his audience. And who knows? He's basically going the same route that every hacky comedian does at this point. So more than likely, best case scenario, in a couple months we barely hear about him again. And then he goes and starts his own podcast to bitch about cancel culture over and over and over again. Again, that's best case scenario. But that's all for me today.